Okay, so we're going to try reading aloud Sylvia and Aki. If you guys remember when we left off, Sylvia and her brothers had taken the bus to school for the first day. They got dropped off at Westminster School, and now they have to walk the rest of the way to Hoover School, where they're going to be attending. This first bit is the end of that chapter. The first day of third grade isn't starting out the way I hoped, Sylvia admitted to herself. Gonzalo kept his head down and his hands shoved deep in his pants pockets. Even Jerome couldn't find the energy to kick a rock. After about 10 minutes of trudging along, Gonzalo said, "There it is." Further along the street was a run-down, dirty, clapboard building next to a cow pasture. Loose dirt and clumps of weeds surrounded the school. An empty field stood in for a playground, sure to be dusty in warm weather, a sea of mud when it rained. No guardian trees and thick green lawns here. A faded, hand-painted sign posted above the building's front door read Hoover School. The smell of cow manure filled Sylvia's nose. Think about how different that is from when they got to Westminster School. And it was all brand new, and Sylvia was so excited about playing on the playground. Completely different. This place was going to be just like all the other schools she and her brothers had attended. Nothing but out-of-date, hand-me-down textbooks with pages torn or missing, and second-hand desks. Second-hand means they're leftover. Somebody already used them and then donated them. Second-hand desks scarred with pencil marks and initials. Once again, we get the leftovers. Then there's a little squiggle that means time passed. When Sylvia's class broke for lunch, there were already several other groups outside on the back field. Sylvia sat under the shade tree with Ramona, a girl from her class who lived in the barrio. "Shoo!" Sylvia cried, swishing at a swarm of flies. "Leave me alone!" A fly landed on her bologna sandwich as she took a bite. "They come from the cow pasture. You'll get used to it," Ramona said. "They never go away." "I'll never get used to it," Sylvia said. "What other choice is there?" "Westminster School," she wanted to answer, but it wasn't a choice, at least not for her and Ramona. Instead, she just shrugged, waved off another fly, and took a second bite of her sandwich. As she was finishing, she noticed a younger boy approaching the wire fence that surrounded the pasture, keeping the cows inside and the children out. One wire strung along the top of the fence glinted wickedly in the sunlight. The boy was tentatively reaching his hand out toward the wire. "Ah!" the boy cried loud enough to silence the yard, at least for a moment. The boy pulled his hand back and shook it violently. Some of the older boys laughed. Any idea what happened? "It's electric," said Ramona. Someone probably dared him to touch... Sorry, the cat doesn't normally interrupt our read-alouds. Somebody probably dared him to touch it. He's in second grade. This is his first year at Hoover. It always happens to a new kid on the first day of school. Sylvia rubbed her hands together, imagining the jolt of electricity that must have passed through the boy's hand. Who would put an electric fence next to a school? At the end of the day, Sylvia walked her brothers back to Westminster School. When they arrived, the other kids were already boarding the bus. Sylvia slipped into a vacant seat in the middle of the bus. Again, Gonzalo and Jerome sat across the aisle. On the ride home, Sylvia thought about that second grader. She remembered his cry, and then his pain, embarrassment, and shame. She leaned over and whispered to Jerome and Gonzalo, "Tomorrow, at school, whatever you do, don't touch the fence." From the looks on her brothers' faces, she could tell that they already knew. Sylvia looked out the window as they passed one farm after another, each separated from its neighbor by a fence. Split-rail fences, electric fences, barbed wire fences, keeping some in, shutting others out. Sylvia replayed the moment when she'd seen the boy get shocked. She, too, had once been shocked while plugging in a lamp, so she knew the burning jolt he must have felt. Her mind wandered to her father and his efforts to break down the barrier that kept her from Westminster School. from a good education. He's not going to back down, Sylvia thought, but I sure hope he doesn't get burned. I think it's kind of interesting how they were just talking about the fence, right? The fence, she was talking about the physical fence that was keeping people away from, I guess, the cow pasture. But then she's also thinking about kind of, I guess, the laws or the current policies that are a fence that keep her from being able to go to the school that she lives near. Okay, that was the end of chapter 3, and I'm going to see if I can actually get it posted. Okay.